Hi everybody, it's Ivor Stephen here from Australia, Geelong in Australia. We've had a few technical problems today, but we'll get going. I'm here to promote my new book, Tullawalla, which has been published by Fay Corps Publishing Incorporated there, and they've been very kind to do my book for me. It's a book of poetry, of course, and they've got 10 chapters, and they're all very different sort of chapters, and it's kind of a life story, and it's all about life, my life, nature, history, fantasy, bit of magic, Christmas stories, and mainly about the from when I started writing. I suppose better start about how I become a poet. Originally, I was an industrial chemist, and I worked as an industrial chemist here in Geelong for quite a few years. But then I become a plumber. My father was a plumber, and I went out to help him. He got a bit sick, and I kind of had to join him and help his business out. And so I got tossed in the pool as a plumber and apprentice and an owner, and ran the show all at the same time. Uh, didn't do very well. I kind of made a mess of things, but I battled through and learned how to swim. And then after a while, I was married to a lovely redhead called Carol, and about 15 years. Oh no, it was only 7 years into our marriage. It's about the same time I became a plumber. Uh, she got serious MS, and I had to become a part-time plumber and a carer at home. So that was how that all began. And then while I was being a carer, 15 years into my wife's serious MS illness, I had a stroke. And that wasn't very nice. It wasn't very good for me. And then because you're kind of lying around, can't talk, and people are out there, but you're inside somewhere and laying on a bed. I went through rehab and couldn't talk very well and couldn't move very well, but I came out the other end, and my therapist got me talking, and I had a bit of trouble writing, of course. I couldn't even sign my own name. But I did some crosswords at home and began to write a little bit. And then my therapist says, "Why don't you start writing a few little words?" And I said, "Well, my writing's sloppy." And she said, "Oh, we'll have a go." Anyhow, I wrote a few little jingles at home, one-liners and two-liners. Then I read them to my wife, Carol, who would always be sitting beside me in a wheelchair. And she had a bit of a giggle and a bit of laugh at them. And I said, "Well, this is good." She laughs at what my words are, and well, that's got to be good. She can laugh, well, that's got to be good. So I started writing a bit more and a bit more, and and then you go and see a therapist, and then she suggested I join a couple of writing groups. And I said, "Well, God, that sounds a bit terrible for me," but so I went along and joined the Geelong writers groups, and with my well, I was a little fellow in the corner for me dunce's hat on. I wasn't much good at anything in those days, and but I graduated up the ranks a little bit and started to write a few decent poems. And well, my wife was still alive then, and I used to read these poems to her. And this is one I started writing serious poetry about 18, 20 years ago, and this is an early piece that I'm going to read to you right now. And I didn't start, what do you call it, airing my poems or making my poems public to anybody. But I gradually started reading them at the writers groups and things like that. But this one's called, wasn't long after I started writing poetry, after my rehabilitation times, and this is an early poem called "This Fence." It's from chapter 2 in my book. My empty hands are full of memories and rhymes. That's what the chapter's called. Oh, better get on with the poem. Sorry. This fence. I'm quickly nearing this fence. An obstacle of a lifetime I see. And on my side of this fence, the hurdle is too high for me. On the other side of the fence, there seems nowhere to land or flee. I've arrived at this fence. Above the picket's just grey sky, and on my side of this fence, the grass is brown and dry. On the other side of this fence, the grass is green, but still I cry. How am I to clear this fence? There seems nowhere to go or get by. This fence, all built of stones, breaks my spirit and all my bones. Well, that was an early piece, this fence. And of course, I got to write more and more poems over the years. And I joined local writing group, poetry group, which I found very interesting, and expand from there. I must say, back in my school days, I struggled with English literature and English expression. I actually had to get tutor help to pass my high school, which would be college for you Americans over there. So I got tutored through my English. I was more into maths and science, and we didn't have to speak much English. But I got through. But apparently, after my strokes, and my neurologist told me that there's, a piece of your head's gone dead, but there's also parts of your brain that are there that haven't been used before, and I found that writing suited what I needed to do, and my neurologist said that's probably woken up over that piece of grey matter up there. It's fairly grey, but it wakes up, and apparently there's another piece of your brain that you can use, and I've seemed to be writing, seemed to be my go. Anyhow, and then I graduated into more poems and started entering in submissions, and got a lot of knockbacks, of course, but I got one early in the piece. This was about, it's nearly 10 years ago. The poem's out of my chapter 8, Haikus and Leftover Champagne. The poem's called This A Lost Shadow. It's an interesting poem because there was an open submission to an anthology here in Victoria called Melpony, which is a collection of old poets and new poets, and it's basically about death and sorrow, and obviously some of my poems probably suited at the time, but I was very happy to be in the book and get my poem accepted. I had my name as an author under the names like Charles Baudelaire and William Blake and Paul Villani and Edgar Allan Poe and Emily Dixon, and under their names there was a bloke called Ivor Stephen. So that was a bit of a highlight back in my early days of writing. Oh, I suppose I better read this poem. Okay, it's called, I think it made the chapter on sorrow in the book. And the book was edited by a local author, Gwendolyn Taunton. Anyhow, here we go. Do you want to hear the poem? I better read it out. It's called This Lost Shadow. I am writing this song for my body and for my soul. I'm singing this song about my return from the cold. Why am I tired? Is 60 so old? Why am I sore? Have I been too bold? I'm physically worn and mentally torn. I'm worried about my every waking dawn. I'm thinking of this quiet life for you and for me. I'm wondering if this vigilant life is too hard for me. I'm pondering if this tragic life shall continue to be, and feeling our bonded life is drifting out to sea. I'm writing these words for everyone to see. I'm writing this book about a single weeping tree. Why am I sleepy? Am I aging too quickly? Why am I so sad? Who's looking after me? I'm a furnace log, burning up with glee. I'm a sinking boat, all about to flee. I'm an overburdened camel, or a donkey maybe. I'm an empty desert, a void as far as the eye can see. I'm this broken branch, withering and dying slowly. I'm this lost shadow, running the barren land fortuitously. And that was this lost shadow. So 2012, here I was, a little old poet, didn't know much about poetry in a very important anthology collection with some very important poets. So they give me a bit of confidence to keep going in this world of poetry. I found it challenging. Of course, over the years, of course, Carol's passed away, but probably nearly, it'll be 9 years ago now. And I've graduated in what I write about, and because my early days, most of my stories were related to her or about her, or of course, she was a lovely subject. She was already easy to write about. But I've graduated. I write these stories, write any sorts of stories. I've got a chapter on what do you call it? I'm not quite sure what the chapter's called. Hang on, I'm flipping through a few pages. I'm nearly organised. We kind of got a bit disorganised early in the piece. Here we go. It's chapter 9. It's called not horror, but weird. Yeah, a bit like me, I suppose. This one's called Time's Awry. Hope no children are watching. Hopefully, it's a bit bloodthirsty, but geez, they watch some bloody shows on TV these days. So I'll go ahead. Last night I awoke in a pool of blood, surviving Noah's great flood. There was no bleeding horse head. It wasn't a dream. I wasn't dead. The nightlight died instead. A dark shadow engulfed my bed, sheets of oozy dripping threads. A deep flowing red, from where I dread. Petrified motionless I spread. The hole in my heart is dry, filled with tears of crystal white, I cried. My bloodshot eyes are weeping. Time's awry. Puddles of gore descended from the boar's sty. Visions and devils and angels passed my eyes. I'm not ready to say my goodbyes. Am I being nailed to the cross to die? Or is that Cupid's arrow in my thigh? Bit of a twist at the end. If you got it was just a dream, okay? But don't take it too seriously. But what my horror stories of kind of weird dreams, and I'm a bit lucky that I have these kind of vivid dreams, and I might wake up or half awake during the night, and I'm able to jot down some parts of my dreams on a notebook, and in the morning when I'm fully awake, I don't know whether I'm ever fully awake, but I kind of have a look at these little pieces of notes, and I get some recall from my dreams, and I write these kind of unusual poems from my dreams. And if anybody I think we all have our dreams. I've got myself into a habit of jotting these things down in the middle of my sleep, and they're a bit illegible when I wake up in the morning, but the ideas are there, and they kind of jolt whatever it is to be jolted in your head around, and I'm able to write these poems about my dreams, and they come out okay. I wouldn't say they're very successful all the time, but there's some interesting little pieces that come out of my head. Oops. So that chapter on horror is kind of an interesting little chapter. And then we'll go back to chapter 8, which is this is the leftover champagne ones. But this is a nice poem. We'll get back onto what I like writing about, human nature and love, and where we stand in life with each other. This poem, this short piece, it's called "Where Is Love." Behind every word, there is a thought. Between every thought, there is an emotion. Underneath the emotion, there is a heartbeat. Below the heartbeat, there is soul. Within the soul, there lives love. I hope you like that one. Bit of Ivor's philosophy. I don't know whether my philosophy is to be followed or not. And then also at the start of chapter 8, I write a few haikus. I didn't write many when I started writing poetry because I didn't understand the meaning of haikus and how they were formed. And but I've learnt over the years, and I write a few haikus every now and then, and I like doing them. They're an interesting form of poetry, and you have to be. Their poetry are very concise, and trying to get meaning out of that 3 lines is more easier said than done. But having said that, this poem here, this little haiku, which I've got a dozen haikus presented in my book in chapter 8. This little haiku is won an award, a haiku award at the Brevis magazine in a competition they were holding for haiku. So another little feather in my cap. Can't remember. It was probably about 4 years ago. And it's called Zither. Oh, the story behind Zither. Zither. I did a tour of China, just one of those bus tour and train tour things, a guided tour around China about 3 years ago, and before the COVID days. Yeah, I wouldn't be going there now. But one of the parts of the tour is visit the back streets of Beijing. Very interesting, old city, and we got in a rickshaw. Got a rickshaw bloke on a bike pulling us around and down laneways, and we ended up in a little backyard, courtyard, you'd call it, of a private house. And we entered the courtyard. There was 20, 30 of us in the yard. There's just enough room for us to get in the yard, and we all sat on little stools and little benches and whatever was there to sit on them. And we watched the host, who later cooked us a meal and fed us all, play a zither or a gizhang musical instrument. It's like a long harp, which sits on her lap. Very interesting. And the gazang, and the house itself was 500 years old, and the gazang was probably a bit older than that. Anyhow, there's a lot of talking for a 3-line little haiku, but anyhow, here's zither. Chinese courtyard sounds, kissing music gently strums, Beijing alley hums. And that's my award-winning haiku. I was a bit proud of that one. And the next haiku I'll read you is one on my trip over to America 2 years ago now, before the COVID time. Lucky I got the trips in. It'll be a couple more years before we can go overseas, I think. I'm not quite sure. But anyhow, I had a lovely time visiting my relatives in Philadelphia. And of course, I got to New York, long way from Geelong. From when I left my bed in Geelong in the morning, early hours of the morning, and going to bed at late at night over in New York. It was about 20 hours from bed to bed, 28 hours. Yeah, it was a long trip. Anyhow, and when I went to Philadelphia, there was this big bridge, and it was the first thing I was introduced to, and it was called the Ben Franklin Bridge. Lovely big bridge. Anyhow, I called this little haiku, "We Lost the Sea." Bridges of dreams crossed, the ocean and river spanned. Waters of Love Found. Nice, I like that one. Well, that's my little, and there's another, oh, I don't know, a dozen haikus in my book, and that chapter 8. They're interesting little pieces, and I do like writing them. Oh, where was I? I've lost my track now. Oh, don't worry. I'm not the most organised bloke in the world. And I was talking about things, wasn't I? What was I talking? Oh, the chapters. Maybe I should read you the chapter list, but I can't find it. But, well, excuse my interruptions here. Well, there's one from chapter 10. Chapter 10 is called Beyond the Horizon, or Beyond the Blue Horizon, chapter 10. It's kind of my visions of the future and what's lying beyond in that great big blue sky. We're all going to end up in, this is called Tall Ships and Encore. Fellow passengers, stay calm. We're still afloat. I must moor this old sinking boat. Well then, alight. Walk the plank tonight. Venture ashore. And continue to explore. Search the empty stores behind every closed door. Under creaky floors, inside living pores. I'm ready for the chore. I need to know more. Discover the final score. Before I'm too old and poor. Let me go. Let me soar. Fly me to my encore. Yeah, it's funny. It's an older poem. It's funny how it pertained to last year's COVID year. The word kind of yeah, our COVID year kind of stirred a lot of things up. They're still stirring things up, I'm afraid. In Australia, we're a little bit better off. Nearly COVID free, and our vaccination program has begun. So hopefully we're allowed to travel interstate now, and maybe we'll get the flight in New Zealand just after Easter sometime. Another one from, well, this is the last chapter. Besides my epilogue poem, which is the epilogue, I wrote a poem for the epilogue. This is the last poem in chapter 10, which is the last poem in my book. A bit special for me, called Cream and Honey. I dream of what might have been. I dream of what I might have seen. Snow on top of Lover's Hill, cream filling my empty till. I've forgotten what could have been, forgotten what I had already seen. Flowers on top of a wooden tray, honey kisses and my empty fear. I'm dreaming of where I have been, dreaming of what no one's ever seen. Snowflakes silently melting in her palm. Cream and honey, my lover's balm. That's a nice little poem, and a lot of dreams in that one. I think that was one of those dream poems, okay? And I got up in the morning and had a few notes to work with, and yes, that's all about what might have been and what could have been and what is going to be. I suppose that's dreams, isn't it? Dreams are about that sort of thing. Boy, our subconscious works a funny way. Where are we now? I don't know. A few people got to be patient. Maybe I could read another haiku. We've got another one here. Shadows. I suppose, can you dream haikus? But they're not perfect. They were not 5, 7, and 5 dream, but the idea was dreamt. And I suppose overnight, so I dreamt the poem to be Shadows. And they are definitely an interesting way of writing haikus. The Japanese, I think they kind of, it was their party time to sit around and drink tea and and recite haikus to each other. And the idea that they'd finish haiku, then there'd be 7 or 8, or could be a dozen people having a little tea party, and then they'd hand on to the next person to recite a haiku. And there was probably a little bit of pressure to produce these little haikus, but they seem to be very adept at how they did these little haiku things. Anyhow, I've called this one. Oh, here we go, talking again. Sorry. Shadows. This one's called. Her lone silhouette, forever etched in the stars. Shadows of my heart. Well, that's a nice dream. We don't all have to have bad dreams, do we? Yeah. And, I don't know. My host was going to ask me some questions, but she seems to think I'm going along okay. I reach for more stuff over here. I'm not quite organised, but I don't know how I'm going for time. I don't know how long I'm supposed to. Yeah. Oh, there's if people haven't seen it, we'll get down to the sun a little bit. Daylight. There we are. There's a picture of the cover of my book, which the basic design and colour of the book itself was Kerry Costello's idea. Kerry was my illustrator and collaborator. She's also my niece that lives in Philadelphia, and she's a wonderful, wonderful artist. And, you buy the book and you'll be able to see her lovely illustrations, but her design didn't quite make the cover, but her concept, it was definitely her concept behind the cover. So, although I haven't seen a book yet, but I do believe the inside cover as an introduction to the book is her original design. So, remember Kerry? We've got to say hello to Kerry. She's over in Philadelphia, or what do you call Ben Salem is where she lives, and she'll be watching this little show. She's very close to my heart. She suffers from SMA, and she's been in a wheelchair most of her life, but she's a professional graphic design artist, and the work goes to New York via computers these days, and she's very, very clever. She hi Kerry. I love saying hello to Kerry. She's a good girl. Oh, she's going to be 35 or 34. Well, better not lie to Kerry. She'll pick me up on that. Okay. She's a bit of a character. I haven't got a picture of Kerry to show, but if you get the book, her picture's in the book. And it's been on a couple of my websites that I wrote a story about my illustrator and collaborator, who actually was getting back to the start of my poetry career. I used to send my poems over to Kerry. She'd enjoyed reading my words, and then it was her idea about 4 or 5 years ago. I can't quite remember, to start up a blog site. I said, I can't do that. She said, I'll show you how. So she sent me over the instructions, and I don't know whether she sent me too many instructions, but I bubbled my way through and started a blog site. I wasn't very confident. I think I kind of left it sit there for a year before I started using it. So it got very confusing for my empty head. And but anyhow, I started up, and then the blog seemed to go from places to places. It's all about contacting people and then writing your poems, and the next couple of days you write another poem and post it up on your blog site, and you get people have a look at it, and it kind of becomes a bit interesting. And the whole thing, of course, like in the blogging career, it snowballs and you get more and more followers. But I've had some lovely followers over the years, and some have been with me from the start, and I can honestly say they're the ones that have encouraged me to produce this book of poetry, Tullawalla. It's an interesting book, and I think there's something for everybody to read. Oh, where was I? We're talking about Kerry. Yeah, Kerry. Anyhow, 2 years ago, I visited New York and Philadelphia, and sitting around a table at Kerry's house and at Dad's, and we're talking about my poetry, and I just, and, why don't you write a book of it? I said, oh, I can't do that, Kerry. Of course, she said, of course you can, Ivor. You've got a wonderful collection of poetry already. And she's right about that. I had lots of poems. I don't know how many poems I got. I know it's over 1,000. But she said, you got enough there to put together a book. And she said, you get the book together and I'll do the illustrations. So we kind of clinked our glasses, shook hands and had a hug. I said, okay, mate. And Kerry became my illustrator and collaborator. She was always a great help and encourager of my words. Yeah, that's that story of how I started this book. And then, of course, we had the COVID year last year that we all had, what do you call, lockdown times, whatever they were downtime. Inside times were shut up, shut in and shut out. And yeah, we were isolated. There were times of we had lots of time. I wouldn't say time. We had lots of time on our hands. So give me plenty of time to put these words together in my book. Because I had this I had a lot of poems to choose from. So that was a process to start with, to choose the poems that went into my book. And I got down to about 160, 170 poems. I said, wow, that's a lot of poems to put in one little book. And I looked around poetry books that I've got on my own bookshelf and in libraries, and the basic book holds about 120, 100 poems. And I thought, well, I'll have to colour for you. So it's been a bit of a process. I had a lot of trouble doing that. So it took me a while, and it was more than a while, but eventually got there, and then and eventually had a bit of a manuscript put together, and then I kind of had to get it edited, and I was very lucky that the lady here in Geelong, part of the Geelong Writers Group, she edited our own Geelong Writers anthologies, which come out every year, and she's a competent editor and proofreader, and she offered to do the job for me. Must like the way I smile. I got a couple of teeth missing, but I smile okay. But she's a lovely lady, and she did an excellent job, as Paddy from Fay Corp's Publishing might attest to, that when she received the manuscript, that she didn't have to do too much correction or mold or editing around, and which made her job a lot easier and made the book possible to get printed and published as soon as it could. And anyhow, thanks to Claudia Collins, if she's watching. Hi, Claudia. Played for Claudia, and I must say she was a pleasure to work with, and although I don't know about the husband, he kind of some man coming around to see again, Claudia. Whoops. Anyhow, we were just bent over a computer all that time. Yeah, and it was an interesting process, the editing. And she was very good at correcting my many spelling mistakes and comma errors, and I'm not very good. As I said, I had trouble passing English way back in my college days. It was a long time ago. But yeah, now looking around again. Oh, there it is. Oops. Oh, I'm nearly organised. So we turn a page. This is my manuscript. Oops, green book. Yeah, look at me. I'll tell you what. I'll just open a page. That'll do. Don't even know what chapter it's on. So that'll be a mystery. Yeah, you'll have to buy the book to find out where I'm reading this one from. It's a funny sort of poem. It's called remembering how to do backstroke. Oh, okay. I'm starting to read it before I recite. Okay, I'll read it now. Okay, sorry. The day we are born, life's journey begins, and every experience creates a memory. As time goes rolling by, our winding road gravitates towards that spiralling stairway, where the dams of stored nostalgia cry, cascading tears down the yellow brick steps, and abruptly we're left afloat on soulful floods. Then cleverly we learn the trick to growing older, remembering to swim backstroke to let us breathe easier when leisurely crossing an old swollen river. Oh, that was a funny one. Anyhow, that's one I put in my book. Well, flipping over a few pages here. Oh, this is chapter 7. Chapter 7 is called The Family Tree and Dreamtime Stories. Huh, here we go. Dreamtime Stories are there. Oh, I'll read you the first one from the chapter. It's an interesting poem. As it was my wife had just died and passed away, and I was getting our home ready to be sold, and of course the place is looking pretty empty. And this one's called Vaults and Bookcases. Vaults and Bookcases. A cool Sunday morning, wearing old brown slippers and warm bedclothes, looking through my window and hearing crows singing, I suppose. Sitting here on borrowed chairs at a homemade table built by Dad, listening to my music of sorrow, ballads of truth, voices humming, so sad. The tunes vibrating from my brother's speakers, quietly in tempo with my pulse, staring at the wall at this tall wooden bookcase, displaying vision from my deepest vaults. Dusty shelves lined with personal photos of people I've lost and found over the years. Mostly pictures of her, now departed for a while, always engulfing my many fears. The image of family and friends, but they're all smiling as if nothing's wrong. Oh, how we mysteriously grin, for the camera pointed at our souls of song. The memorabilia and her little trinkets, all reflecting my hidden veneer, and unopened dry reds dotting the racks like mirrors of yesteryear. That was Vaults and Bookcases. That's in the book, chapter 7. Oh, I've forgotten about that one. That was yeah. So I say that's about 9 years ago now, 10 years ago. Listen, I'll read you this one. That's the one I just opened too. Okay. Maybe some rhymes. What's this one called? Oh, this is in chapter 8 again. Chapter 8's a very interesting chapter. It's some of my good poems, which I've called The Leftover Champagne. A lot of the poems in my book have been published and made it into numerous magazines, but mostly in America. I found America a wonderful place to a lovely place. There's plenty of opportunities and lots of magazines for online writers like me to have their poems published, and I've been supported well by places like Vita Brevis and Spill Words and Free Verse Revolution, and recently Prolific Pulse, which I've enjoyed getting published there. And anyhow, sorry, I do digress, don't I? Sorry. And I do talk a lot. Well, I like to talk. After you've had a stroke and your voice is not working, and it's kind of, my rehab year went for over 6 months, and I struggled a bit and gradually learned how to speak again. I'll have a drink. Not gin, it's just water, okay. And the rehab process was long, and of course I had to get rehabbed and get back home because my wife was in a respite centre, which wasn't too comfortable for her, and so they wanted her to be living back at home where we had all the hospital equipment and the house set up for her needs, and so they were working diligently. So I probably got more attention at the rehab centre than the normal sufferer, and because there was a goal to get me home, and so and help care for my wife. It was a double banger, but we got there, and I got to help her out. And I'm not sure about this poem, but I'll read this one. Another one that's kind of from my dreams. It's called Shangri-La, Beyond the Wreckage. I'm not going, and it was written the start of last year, the start of the COVID year. So it's not an old poem. Oh, God, sorry. We got sidetracked again. I got a message from me thing. What's going on? Do I keep wrap it? Oh, I've been told to wrap it up. Okay. I'm trying to read, and at the same time, I got we'll have to wrap it up. They tell me we'll have to go again tomorrow. We'll listen in. We had a few technical problems at the start there today, but thank you for listening. There'll be more tomorrow, I'm told. Stay tuned. I'm not sure what time that'll be. Probably about noon my time, which is 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time there in America. I hope I got that right. Okay, I'll wrap it up now. Bye for now. Catch you.